In this episode, I share a very big and personal announcement and how I'm managing it all at the moment. We talk about how we manage the masculine and feminine energy in our relationships, especially if you work in a business with your husband. We discuss rent vesting and the pros and potential cons of using this strategy. What's going on in each of our businesses, and especially entering the US market? How do you have to treat each market differently, and what are the strategies required? And then we finish with how confidence is built and the fact that it is a byproduct, not a prerequisite. We discuss some incredible topics in this one. I know you're going to love it. I'll see you inside.
Hey!
Hey, hey.
How are you guys?
Oh, you know?
Some of us are more excited than others.
Feeling good, feeling good. Well, I've thrown up about 5 times today. So, I did leave last episode saying that there would be an announcement this week. So we might as well just say the thing. I am having baby number 2.
Oh, that's so exciting.
It's the best
Yeah.
just as we spoke about that on one of the recent podcasts, that you were sort of having some struggles with it. What do you call
Yeah.
it? Baby Jesus, here we are.
Honestly, and like I'm an open book, so I'm happy to share how just outrageously crazy this actually is. I like we're talking one time, in a method that we've used our entire 10-year relationship.
Brooke,
And so
Brooke, are you kidding me? Oh, for God's sakes, for God's sakes. That is not an effective method of contraception, Brooke.
well, it has been for 10 years, so I mean, I'm calling that pretty effective.
One time, like, what a miracle baby. That is, like, amazing.
Yeah, it really like, honestly, I have a video which I'm gonna share on my socials of me actually doing the test, and I was talking to the camera and I'm saying, "There's no way I can be pregnant. There's absolutely no way that I'm nauseous, I've missed my period, never do that." And then I go away and play with Oakland and I come back and it actually captures my reaction looking at the test, and I'm genuinely shocked. So shocked. Um So yes, here we are, pregnant, dying with morning sickness, but still showing up. Yep.
How is it affecting your work? You must be very grateful right now you're not having to, I don't know, stand up at a customer service-based job and get on with your day in the mornings, but how much flexibility have you got at work at the moment if you are feeling sick in the morning?
This is such a great question, and it actually leads perfectly into what I wanted to talk about this morning because I'm not sure if you and just quickly, can you guys hear that drill?
A little bit, yeah.
Is it really loud?
Nah, it's only a
Wait,
little bit.
I mean, this is Bali, so we've got construction happening right there, and it's super loud for me. But if you can't hear it too much, then we will roll on. Anyway, I don't know if you saw the video of Abby Chatfield. She did a video talking about the difference between being a working dad and a stay-at-home mum. And I've seen a lot of conversation around this lately, working men versus stay-at-home moms. And I actually think the reason it hits a nerve for me is because it's framed way too simple for the lives that most of us are living. Because for me, real partnership isn't about who earns the money and who stays home. It's not a scoreboard, which it seems to be the message and how it's been treated lately. It's more about who is carrying what, and in this season, and whether that load is being shared consciously. So right now, with me being pregnant, I've got Oakland, I've got an 18-month-old business, and morning sickness has been next level for me. The only reason I'm able to show up and continue to be doing what I am is because my husband has picked up more. Like he has picked up more emotionally, practically, mentally. He's, going to pick up Oakland from school today because I was wrapped around the toilet. So he does it without resentment and without keeping score on like, well, you owe me. And I like, that's the part that people don't talk about the most is it's not just the fact that Scott is helping me. He's stepped up and taken responsibility. And sometimes that looks like one person is working more. And sometimes it looks like, one person carrying the home. Sometimes it looks like 80-20 instead of 50-50. And that doesn't mean it's unfair. It means it's responsive. And I think the main thing that I'm trying to get at here is women burn out. It's not because they're doing too much. It's because they're doing too much alone. And even when they're technically in a partnership. So for me, it's not about men needing to feel guilty or women needing to be superhuman. It's about capacity. And right now, the fact that I'm able to I'm aware that my capacity has changed. I'm not afraid to ask for help. And I'm so open to receiving Scott step up and take on that responsibility. So yeah, the strongest partnerships that I see, they're not ideological, they're practical. They change with seasons and they don't cling to the roles, they respond to reality. And that's like something that I really want to acknowledge that Scott's done amazingly. I mean, I've got raging hormonal anger right now and I'm being such a bitch to him. I can see myself doing it, but I just can't help it. I'm just like rage. And he's just taking it. He's just like, can I get you anything? Like, why don't you go take yourself for a shower and just like, hop in bed and I'll sort out Oakland. And like, sorry, that to me is like a man. He's just like, he just gets it. So yeah.
I think that is just so amazing. And especially you guys work together. I also work with my husband. And, you do have to kind of help each other out at times. You're not always going to feel your best, pregnant or not. We all have our on and off days. So I love that, without question, he's just getting in there, stepping in, which, also allows you to relax because at the end of the day, I think this is one of my major concerns running business and becoming a mum is that obviously you need to be as less stressed and, feeling calm, to have that environment for your growing human. And so I think that it's like amazing that he's obviously allowing you to just decompress, creating that safe place for both of your little human to grow. I think that just says so much about his character. And at the end of the day, I'm assuming you would do the exact same for him. So it's like, if ever he's having a bad day, you're going to step in. But I think that I'm really excited to kind of, I guess, follow along this journey with you because hopefully one day I'm in that position as well. And just watching you gracefully, take on your business, your babies, it's really amazing to watch. And I think that there's probably a lot of listeners grappling with maybe what I'm grappling with. How do we be great moms and run businesses? So I'm really excited for this journey and thank God, you've got that partnership. How do you
Yeah.
feel, Brooke? Because you're in a little bit of a different life cycle.
Actually, right now, my life cycle is I'm planning on probably going and like working remote and traveling around. So I'm not in the season right now of having any babies just yet or anytime soon, or if at all. I'm not sure if that's for me. But I'm just this podcast is going to be like the same age almost as the second child. Oh no, it's going to take a while to cook, but it's going to be one of those things. We're going to say, wow, you were still in Brooke's tummy, and then now look how old you are, and that's like the podcast. How good!
That's
It's
so
like a
cool.
good
That is really cool.
marker.
I actually, just off the back of something you were talking about, Katie, I had a moment this week where I realized I was treating the pregnancy fatigue and the morning sickness that I had as like a mindset problem. And I kept telling myself, I just need to push harder. I need to keep showing up. I can do it all. I need to be more disciplined. And then it hit me like a ton of bricks. I just spent one day in tears and I realized that there is nothing wrong. Yes, my capacity has changed, but instead of fighting that, the most powerful thing that I can do is lead with it, not against it. And that's kind of going to be the way that I am this pregnancy. It's like, yes, my capacity has changed, but let me show you what is still possible. And I'm going to lead myself through it instead of fighting against it and feeling guilty about, having to cancel a session or having to cancel a meeting because I am wrapped around the toilet throwing up. And I'm sure you don't want me to take you along for that part. So
And I think
yeah.
that's the inspirational part because there's a lot of people like me who is trying to envisage what that life would look like. And so I'm so grateful that, you're being transparent and you're going to show that journey because again, I'm sure there's a lot of people in that sort of mindset, how do we juggle it all? So hell yeah, I'm pumped.
We all three of us were very successful business owners, and I guess the idea of traditional roles in the home, having a guy at the man go out and hunt and be the provider, and then the woman being the stay-at-home mom who does the cooking and the cleaning, and those traditional pathways. I'm really curious to see how you manage that in your relationship, because obviously one is super feminine and one is super masculine, and we know that too feminine or too masculine don't quite work. They're not in harmony. So I guess for you, Katie, like, how do you and your husband, you work in the same business, how do you manage that?
Yeah, look, I think we've spoken about it before that I am definitely more on the masculine energy side. I think maybe one day I will jump more over to the feminine, but definitely sitting in my masculine energy at the moment. And it just sort of feels like at the moment that that is the energy that I need to bring to juggle all the balls that I'm taking. But it's hard. Working with your partner is not easy. I think probably the biggest thing that really helped us between our personal life and our work life is that we did a lot of different personality tests. So we were together for a few years before we started working together. So we have been working together for like 10 years now. But, in the early days, we kept clashing, because I had this imagination of the type of personality that I thought that he was. I'm sort of the dynamo, I come up with the ideas, and I thought he was the executor. But as we sort of kept clashing on this, because, I'm creating and he's executing, and that was kind of the way that it was set up. But he kept coming over into the creating space and it was leaving the execution space. And so, probably in about 4 years in, we did different personality tests through some business coaching that we did. And through that experience, we actually worked out that we are the exact same character. And so this is why we kept clashing. And so I think, if you are working with your partner, just really understanding, their work personality and their character, because I had a completely different picture in my mind until we did the test. And it was like, oh my God, this all makes sense now. We have the same superpowers. So yeah, that's probably one of the most helpful. How do you guys find it? Like, how do you navigate?
For me, it's a little different because Scott still very much he believes in the man being the provider, the woman being the nurturer and the homemaker. And so he still has those traditional views, which is obviously very difficult with me being a business owner. But I think it's just allowing myself to do the things that makes me feel like a woman. And I'm not gendering energies, by the way, but there are certain things that I do, like making the bed, that he loves, and it actually makes me feel like I can be more feminine. And when I design the house, or I go and get you some new pillows, or just little things like that, allows me to soften, because I also am very masculine. And when you run a business, I feel like you have to be more in your masculine energy to be able to lead. So it's important for me to do activities and things that allows me to soften and be more feminine, because he is also very masculine. And so two masculine people, two energies, it just clashes. So yes, he's not the one that's out there hunting solo. I'm actually alongside him hunting, though I allow him to be the provider in other ways. So for instance, he is the one that sorts out all of the money, makes all the decisions about where our investment goes, and I fully surrender to that. And I'm like the damsel in distress, like, oh gosh, are we okay? Are we going to are we investing our money wisely? Um, and that doesn't make me any less powerful. It actually makes him feel like he's really fulfilling that provider role. So we've learned how to do that with each other. And I think this is why I spoke about earlier. It's not traditional, and the ideologies are still kind of there, but it's so nuanced, isn't it? Because I'm not the stay-at-home mom. I am the provider too, in a sense. So it's just like, how do we navigate those tricky conversations when maybe he feels emasculated by some of those things? But I really do feel like we're at a good point where we've figured out how we can be harmonious in all of that. So yeah.
When you did the personality tests, Katie, and have you done similar, Brooke? Have you done things for example, we've tried like Gallup Strengths Finder, or what is it? What is it? The 16 personalities, Myers Briggs. What strategy or theory did you use?
We've done quite a few. Like we did Myers-Briggs, Genius U, and I guess all of the kind of results came back that we were the exact same on all levels. And so we're just like, oh, I thought opposites are meant to attract. But in our relationship, it does mean that we are really good mates. And but it does have the downfall because especially as business partners, it would be more beneficial if we were different, had different strengths. But yeah, we are the exact same character.
What do you find you clash on? Like, do you have arguments about certain things? Because I mean, I imagine if your brain is operating the same way, you would probably see eye to eye on a lot of things, which is good, but also like sometimes so Scott and I, we argue more than anything, but it's actually, we argue in a really effective way, if that's even a thing. It's that we don't see eye to eye, and we often like are each other's biggest mirror. So he holds up the things that I need to work on in myself, and I'm able to hold that back up to him. So I'm curious, with the same personality style, like, do you have arguments? Like, what would they be about?
Absolutely. Of course, we have arguments. I don't know if they're super frequent, but if they're big, they're big. We absolutely have arguments. I think doing business together, the little things don't bother me at all. Like, I think what a lot of partnerships may argue about, they're just not on my radar. Like, we would really only argue about potentially big decisions, like whether you pulled the sheets down or I know that things can be frustrating, but I'm like, "Oh, is it really that big of a deal? No, it's not. Get rid of it. Let's not think about it." So I think
Yeah.
that we I guess we probably let quite a bit slip, more so just because I don't think it's important. Like I'm all about moving forward, let's plan the life ahead of us rather than living in the past. So yeah, we absolutely do argue, but I would say that it's not about small things because
Mm,
I'm just like, who cares? Like, let's move on. You didn't wash up, whatever. Like,
yeah. Yeah. I'm like, you didn't wash up? Go and wash up.
yeah,
No, for me, though, Viv, you were talking about the quizzes. For me, it's more about understanding love languages, because the biggest unlock for our relationship was realizing that I was trying to show love to Scott the same way that I received it. But actually, that was like the lowest part of the way that he receives love. It's like, I'm all about giving gifts. I like the idea of, someone knowing that I thought about them and this was a really thoughtful gesture, whereas he's all about physical touch. And so we kept clashing again. He kept saying things like, I don't feel love from you. And I'm like, but I only get you gifts and I only give you words of affirmation. What do you mean you don't feel love from me? And it's because the way that you give and receive love looks differently. So, like, for him, if I'm not touching him or massaging him or like, cuddling him and doing things like that, then he doesn't feel that love from me, which again keeps me in my masculine. So I've really had to work very hard because physical touch is not my thing. It is with my son randomly, but not my husband. I have to really, tell myself, be conscious about, okay, Brooke, you're going downstairs, like duck your head in, give him a cuddle, even on the back of the scooter, like put my hands around him. And that means so much to him, but I am consciously thinking about how I can show him love. So
That's so much cheaper than buying him gifts all the time as well. That's so
Yeah.
much that's so much faster. It's
for me.
enjoyable for you. You just like shopping.
I'm like, give me the shops, I'll buy you a million things. Like, that's easy. The touch is hard. That's why this baby came from one time.
I love that.
I actually had a friend who ran a really successful business, and he often talked about love languages and trying to understand his staff's languages because then he could figure out what motivated different people in terms of, oh, quality time, cool, I'll let that person go off work early and she can go and watch her son's basketball game or something. But I've actually forgotten in that one of those is physical touch. So what is he supposed to do? Shake their hand or something? Like, I don't know how you incorporate physical touch with your staff members. Maybe it must be. Maybe you put your hand on their shoulder. I don't know. But
That's such a perfect segue into like talking about what's going on in our business. We actually have the love languages quiz as part of our onboarding because it is so important for us to be able to show our staff appreciation and gratitude, which is also a variation of love. And I think I have the best team in the world because we understand the way they give and receive love. So it's little things like sending gratitude message to them, or acknowledging them, putting them in the limelight, sending them gifts. A lot of my coaches love receiving gifts. So that's something that I do intentionally to make them feel like I see them and I give gratitude. So that's such a good point in, like, you should know your staff's love language to build a really strong culture.
How are you going to touch your remote team?
Yeah.
Do you just penny for second best?
I have to hire someone. Not
Yeah,
that
I
very
reckon
much.
I'd be putting
Not
gifts
that
down
much.
if I was getting employed with someone and they were giving me backwards. I'd be putting gifts first as well. I don't want my boss to touch me. You can buy me something.
Now, something this week, guys, that I sort of wanted to bring up, it's kind of a bit of a topic, and it's been a topic for a while, but just sort of the journey into home ownership. And I know we've discussed it, and I think we all have quite different views on it. So, and I know like a lot of listeners right now would be, you know, really hoping, maybe working towards buying their own home. And I know, Brooke, obviously you're in Bali. Viv, you're about to be a free spirit around the world, which is amazing. So this could be an interesting topic. But the kind of version that I like to think of is rent vesting. And this is probably my approach to home ownership. So rent vesting is basically just renting where you want to live and then investing in better areas. Because a lot of the time in Australia, where you want to live, it might be really expensive, but it might not be the best investment. So I'm like all pro rent vesting. But I guess we've sort of had a little bit of a caveat to it. We have added home ownership and rent vesting together, and this is kind of how we are doing it. But I guess just before I sort of go into that, wanted to get your opinion because you guys are free spirits around the world soon, Viv. So, I mean, Brooke, you're in Bali. How do you sort of feel about home ownership and having that sort of secure space? Are you looking at buying a home?
I have always, I think I've always, look, I reckon when I had my first job out of uni, I was like, sweet, this is so easy. I'm living at home. I'm going to save all my money. Some weeks I would try and spend nothing at all. And it became like this game. And I thought, oh, this is going to be sweet. I'm going to try and buy a house. And I remember my parents saying to me, okay, yeah, cool, but also probably not the best financial decision because you can't take your money out, blah, blah, blah. I was like, whatever. Then I got into business. That was obviously not on the cards for a very long time. Now, where I'm sitting and probably looking from the outside in, I think my take on it is that I could only ever see myself rent vesting or only buying them as an investment. You mentioned, Brooke, earlier, you like picking the insides of, houses or whatever. I honestly don't care. I had to buy pot plants and like photos for this house because I knew I had to get a new tenant and put it on Facebook Marketplace. So my marketing brain was like, you need to make this look nicer. Otherwise, my old housemate and I, we literally had a TV and a couch. I don't even think we had a dining room table. We just had nothing in here. It was, and I'm like, don't care. I don't care. All my friends be like,
That's going to change, Viv, as you get older.
I would
didn't
happily buy the display section, like I don't need to go through so I think, yeah, I can't relate so much to when people get excited about making something their like home and renovating. To me, I see property as an investment, and for right now where I'm at, like you say, I'm going to move overseas, so that can complicate things with like your tax residency or whatever, and on top of that, I wouldn't want to have something that also possibly like needed a new roof and it was somewhere and then I have to go and pay for it or whatever. So the only things that I've kind of considered would be like flipping them but again, I'm leaving the country, so that's not going to work. So at the moment I'm all in on business and shares and crypto and stuff. So that's where I'm kind of at, but rent vesting, big tick in my eyes.
Yeah, I have to agree. For me, I prefer renting because at the moment, ownership doesn't equal freedom, flexibility does. And for me, renting represents options, it represents mobility, it represents speed and lightness. And that is literally who I am. Like, I like the idea of being able to say, I'm done with this place. Like, I want to go and live in somewhere else. And like, I don't like being anchored or tied down to anything. So for me, investing will be the only way for now. We had the conversation just recently about whether we want to buy in Bali. And I just started to freak out to be like, no, 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 no. I don't know if I want to be in Bali for the rest of my life. I don't know that. And that's, I want flexibility forever.
Yeah,
I
I'm
also
definitely
think
down.
yeah, no, I was just going to add that it depends. It definitely depends on your life season. Like, I think I also decided that, wow, my like asset, I guess, at the moment is my knowledge and the opportunity cost of having money tied up in something. At the moment, I'm still better off in my life season to do the most to like build my income.
Yeah,
Um,
it's like
I wanted to ask you something just while we're talking about property, but before we continue with this one, because I just watched a reel earlier about the property crisis, and particularly in Perth. And I wasn't aware, like maybe I'm ignorant. I'm probably not aware. I try and detach myself from a lot of news stories and things like that. But this one was a lady, and apparently there's a new property development being released where you can buy new blocks of land. And they were driving past to see some of the blocks. The launch or the release is happening on Saturday. There was already 3 people camping out. It was Tuesday. And so she was crying because she's like, this has been our dream forever. My husband is now having to race home to bring back a tent and start camping out on Tuesday night. And by the time we get back, there's going to be another 4 people in line. And to me, I'm watching this being like, is this actually where we're at?
this is
Like, can you share some light on this? Because that's just insane.
the Australian housing crisis is a real thing, and it's stories like that that families are absolutely going through. We rented out one of our Perth houses recently, 100 people, 100 people, and like 90 applications for one property in Perth. Yeah, so Perth is definitely the lowest vacancy rates, but it's across the board. We have a real crisis, and we are absolutely not building enough houses, which is obviously why I'm in the affordable housing space because, you do see families suffer because we just don't have the supply and demand ratio is just not there. So, yeah, I 100% believe it. I felt it with my recent property in Perth, with the amount of applications that came through was insane. So I really feel for the families going through that, but it is definitely, yeah, a real thing happening. And yeah, that's so sad. Like it honestly breaks my heart seeing families go through that. And like they've got to house their children, and probably aren't in a position to purchase a home. So their option is to rent. But to get a rental, it's incredibly hard at the moment. So, yeah, we need more houses, we need more developers building more houses, and we need more help from the councils with the red tapes to allow us to build more houses so we can actually house Australians.
Like, the camping out is just absolutely wild to me. Like, not only is his husband going to now camp out for 4 days to try and secure a block of land, but what's that going to cost the family as well? Him taking 4 days off work, or like, I just that is really scary, and that's really sad to see that that's happening. And I'm
Yeah.
also thinking to myself, what are these lands? Are these blocks of land? And can someone just trump that line and be like, actually, I'm taking them all? Like, do buyers agents get access to purchase these blocks before the everyday Australian does? Like,
Yeah,
can you?
and a lot of them go off market, like the Perth, we purchased in Perth, a few years ago, and it was super hot market, and so, you sort of had to know the real estate agents, we had a buyer's agent there, and you sort of we got our properties off market, so it didn't even go to market, but in terms of the rental, I think it does have to be advertised, but, I'm sure there's backdoor rental agreements and things happening, for people that might have family or know someone. But yeah, there's some crazy stories out there at the moment for sure.
And so, what's your take on rent vesting, Katie?
I'm definitely all about the rent vesting, but I guess something that we've sort of done personally, and definitely not financial advice, but this is just something I'm doing at the moment. So, although we also want to travel, and kind of live that freedom life, I still do want a home base and I want a home. And so, probably 5, 6 years ago, we purchased our dream block, not the dream home. So we purchased a block on the Mermaid Canals on the Gold Coast. This is exactly where we want to live. It's near Nobby's. It's our place. It's our home. And so we purchased that and we moved into the home and we lived there for a year, year and a half. And we moved out of that home. And so obviously moving into the home, it becomes your PPOR, your principal place of residence. And there is a big difference between, owning your own home or investing. And so by moving into the house, it becomes our principal place of residence. But then we actually moved out of the house, a year and a half so after living in it. But where we sort of combine the two strategies of home ownership and rent vesting is that with this particular house, it is still classified as our PPOR, even though we are not living in the house. And there is a CGT tax rule of 6 years. So because we've lived in the house and it was our home, even though we've moved out and we are now renting, we still get the benefits of it being our PPOR for 6 years. So we can not live in the home for 6 years and still get the benefits of it being our own home. So talking about, I guess, the benefits, you know, with investing, you get to claim the deductions, you get depreciation, obviously you get rent, so to help pay for the mortgage. But the biggest benefit that you get being your PPLR, which is why people have that home ownership a lot of the time as a strategy, is because if you were to sell it, there's no tax. So it's CGT tax exempt. So that's how we're sort of using both. We've moved into a home, we've then moved out of the home, and because it's an income producing asset, we are claiming now as if it's an investment. So we're claiming the deductions, we claim the interest, but we get up to 6 years with the CGT tax rule. And so if at any point we wanted to sell, we're not. But if we did, it's still classified as our PPOR. And so we get that exempt from the CGT tax. So it's kind of putting the strategies together where we purchased our home 6 years ago, whatever it was. So we also got prices on the Gold Coast 6 years ago, but we knew, hey, this isn't going to be our home forever right now. We've bought it with a future strategy so that we get the benefit of it being a investment property, but also being our home. And our plan is to go back. But let's say that someone did want to sell that home, then it's still in the PPLR. So yeah, it's a really good strategy.
Did you say, Katie, that that was your dream home that you purchased?
Not the dream home, definitely a dream block. So basically our strategy, and I guess again, kind of going on top of that, our strategy for this home is that we've purchased our dream block as early as we possibly could, has a crappy house on it. But we knew that, development zoning is changing in that area. So at the moment, in the pre-plans with the council, that particular block that we purchased will become a duplex zone. It's not yet possible for us to do that right now, but it's in the pre-zoning, which means it's very likely that it will happen. At what year, I do not know, but we're just waiting for that to pass. So we're then going to build two luxury duplexes on it.
So would a better strategy then for, say, someone who wants to utilize the 6 years actually be buy your non-dream home with the intent to sell within those 6 years so that you don't have to pay tax?
Yeah, look, that I think would be a fantastic strategy. Again, not financial advice. This is just something that we're working through. But yeah, exactly. But again, you're getting the benefits of both sides because you've moved into it and it's become your home. As there are a lot of rules around this. It's not that simple. So you do need to get, correct advice around it. But basically, once you then move out of the house, as long as you don't have another PPOR on your name, that stays for 6 years, which means then because someone else has moved in and is renting the home, it's become an income producing asset. Therefore, you get to claim the interest, you get to claim all of the benefits, the tax benefits But exactly because it's still classified as your PPOR, if you then got a gain and you wanted to sell within that 6 years, then obviously we do have the CGT tax exempt. So yeah, I think it's just putting the two strategies together, rent vesting and owning your own home together in one.
Really
Nice.
cool.
Yeah, good to know that there's options. Fascinating. You're so smart, Katie.
I have one topic, okay, and that is property. We all know this.
Brooke, what's something that you've learnt this week?
Something that I've learned this week. Well, as you all know, we are trying to really break into the US market. And this is definitely bringing up some challenges for us because surprisingly, and this was really surprising to me, what is really working for us in Australia does not. It's the complete opposite in the US. So we're trialing a 5-day challenge, which really gives people we've got some competitors in the US who are quite big. And so we're really competing with, in the same market. So we thought, all right, how can we get people into our ecosystem for a fraction of the price to really see if this is going to be something that they want to do? But it's just tanking right now. And the problem is we had a winning creative that was absolutely crushing. That unfortunately has had to be taken down, which means now we're going to a cold audience and they're seeing my face who they don't know. And so the trust isn't there. So what we're actually going to do, we just got off a mastermind with some incredible people and they suggested really leaning into the Australian, like really just showcasing more of me. It's like a breath of fresh air. And rather than investing in paid ads where we typically take them to book a call or through our 5-day challenge, we're actually just bringing more traffic to YouTube or Instagram, which is then going to mean they have to absorb more content of me. And the great thing about that is we have a DM team who are going to massage and nurture that lead and provide more value, more content for them to absorb so they get to know me. Now, typically what we've seen when we've done that is the more people get of my content, the more they like me, the more they trust me, the more they want to invest with She Sells. So we're actually going to change our strategy entirely, which is exciting, but it's also, it's always a little bit scary, right? It's always a risk, but hopefully this is going to half the amount of money that we're spending on ads in the US at the moment. So yeah.
I'm definitely I've actually taken a business over to the US and I think the live events, like if you could ever run one of your events over there, I think that would absolutely kill it. Have you guys tried like a smaller intro product? I know that obviously you have your big courses, but have you tried like a smaller, cheaper product to kind of warm up the clients a little bit?
That was the 5-day freedom sprint. So it was a 5-day challenge that we were running for $7, and it was kind of saying, hey, our competitors are charging between $5,000 and $10,000 for their programs, but hey, we're not. So come and see what it's all about for just the price of a coffee. And then we would take them through the 5 days, which in concept is incredible. And the first few times we ran it with the winning creative, we were getting incredible quality, incredible people. But then I don't know. We had to take down the creative. We've tried other avenues to try and get the same like reach, but it's just not. So we've got to be, and this is something that I want to touch on. Part of the lesson is you have to fail faster. Like why we keep banging our head against the same wall? It's like it's not getting us the result. We're spending so much money to acquire a customer. Let's change altogether and see what we can come up with by doing something completely different. So that's going to be the way we attack the US now. We're actually doing a US tour in June and I'm going to do it pregnant. I'm going to be on stage with my baby bump. But we're going to 4 different cities in the States and we're just going to run live events to cold audiences, which is really exciting.
I think if
But
you're getting in front of them, that's where you're going to really see the benefit. So that's
yeah, well,
amazing.
Don't smash that.
right. Well, that's the whole premise of getting them into my ecosystem to absorb more of my content. So I want them to actually see longer form. I want them to see my YouTube. I want them to see this podcast. I want them to see lots of examples of me talking so that they build that trust and familiarity. And then when we retarget them through our ads, A, it's cheaper, much cheaper. And B, now they're going, oh, she's familiar. Oh, I trust her because I've already seen, hours and hours and hours of her content.
I think you'll
I don't
find
know. Oh, I don't know about you, Katie, but like when we took the business from New Zealand to even just Australia, like that, you would think, sweet, we're all the same. I honestly, genuinely found like you have to treat it like starting the business from scratch again. You realize, you get your business to a certain level and you're used to having that level of awareness and buy-in, and people just do what click this link, they just do it. But then you've got to honestly start from ground zero again. And like you say, Brooke, it's different stuff. All you really do have to put you get 6 months in and go, yeah, okay, so actually nothing's worked yet. I'm gonna have to dial this back a little bit. Yeah, I've got to go back to grassroots, like you say, doing the live events, grassroots stuff all that grindy things, lots of throwing stuff at the walls where you find what's actually going to work out.
Oh, absolutely. They actually gave us some really good advice. It was like rather because the angle of using our competitors and seeing what they're doing and then doing something different is kind of the angle we want to take. And they called it bad medicine. And I really liked this because the way that they were describing is like you need to find something that they are saying and then say the opposite of that. So one thing for me that's really resonating with that is the bad medicine that they give is teaching women to sell like men. Now, that is not how I teach sales, and that's not my methodology. So it's like I'm actually going to go after, hey, when you sell like a man, I might even dress with a big like slimy mustache or something that I rip off. And I'm going to be like, when women try and sell like this and actually list things that are being taught by women to other women, I'm going to really break down why that doesn't work, especially if you're selling to another woman. And I think that's such a great angle because it's like I'm not attacking their person, like I'm not attacking the person per se, but I'm attacking the way that they're teaching women to sell, which is exciting me because I'm very passionate about that.
Yeah, that's like that ad someone ran, and it was like, who ran it? Was it Steinlager or something? It was like the Run Like a Girl ad. Was it Nike? Was it Adidas? Have you seen that ad? And
I like,
say, Run Like a Girl. Anyway,
yeah.
whatever. Sell like a girl. I'm like, you're essentially anyway. That messaging is saying to be someone you're not. Anyway, that's not a deep dive we're doing right now. But I think I like your idea, Brooke.
And so, Viv, you're going to be potentially venturing out, going overseas. That is so exciting. How do you sort of see the business changes for you?
Yeah, people keep asking me what's your plan. I'm like, don't have one. Just actually am thinking right now, I've got to get rid of some of the stuff. This is why I don't like having all the stuff. I've got a like cupboard full of vibrators. I've got to get rid of them. Anyway,
You're sending Katie into a spiral.
yeah, someone's like, where are you going to go first? I was like, oh, well, I'm going to go back to New Zealand first to see my friend. She'll have had her baby by then. Then my friend just texted me, said, do you want to come to a music festival? I was like, perfect. That's the weekend after that. So I'll go to that. And then, I think I might go to Asia for a bit first, but I don't actually have a plan. It's small details. How do I envisage the business changing? At the moment, I need to step back from a lot of the social media stuff as it is. So we are just hiring at the moment for someone part-time who can lead the charge on that. I think social media looks a lot different now than it did a couple of years ago. A couple of years ago, you would have been really hard pushed to find someone who could strategize, execute, edit, and do it to a standard that was really different from everyone else. But I look around now and I go, no, you can definitely find someone now who, it's definitely a career now for people as well. There's a difference. Like when I started in the social media space, people would ask us, what are you going to do when Instagram dies? So it's been a long time. Whereas now that is like a full-on profession, and, there's people out there who do a good job. So I would love for starters to not be so tied to having to film in person. I went to Vietnam for a month last year, and it's definitely doable to film content and have that happening and edited elsewhere. I think the brand being so community focused in general, though, actually speaks well to having more people on the Instagram account. So at the moment, it's mostly me, sometimes my editor, but having different faces on there is actually a good thing for the brand, not the opposite. And I think sometimes we can get, worried about the fact, well, what if that changes? But I like to say, we've all grown up probably listening to the radio and the host changes, and it's actually not that big of a deal. As long as you've got people who represent the brand and can pull in the values, I actually need to free up someone. I asked a friend for help the other day. I've done the classic thing where I was like, oh no, I've done that thing again where you try and outsource lots of stuff and then you just create all these people reporting to you. And a friend said, can you just write like who's reporting to you at the moment? I was like, yeah, so that'd be, wrote them all down. I was like, okay, so that brings us to 12. I was like, probably too many. I was like, so this is an example. And in there, this is my other role. And this is another role that I'm doing that would also be someone's role. So that is something that needs to get off my plate. You can only scale so much by, doing organic content. And I think there is absolutely someone who can be more excited about that than I am. So yeah, that's really the main thing. Everything else, our team's all remote, and we've done a good job at the moment. I think time zone, that's why Asia is quite good, or the States is actually quite good compared to say New Zealand. But I've also I think I spent a month in the UK last year as well. So it's actually not the end of the world as long as everyone knows what the deliverables are. But the socials will be the main thing.
There are so many brands that I follow who it's less about the brand owner, the founder, and more about the team that work for the brand. And it's the best content. They're constantly pranking their boss. And look, it's giving a bit clickbaity now because I think it's overdone. A lot of people are trying to sort of emulate that same kind of thing. But you end up falling in love with the team. And it's almost like creating a little family within itself. It's like, oh, I want to see more of so-and-so who's in charge. I really love that strategy. I've actually thought about doing it as well with my socials, is because it is all me, but it's me and my family, which is kind of okay. But I was like, I want to get my coaches and my team in my story a little bit more so that people can fall in love with different faces, because it is just me. And like, key man risk, I need to be able to be leveraged a little bit more. So I was like, I have incredible coaches, an incredible community who already post. They just feel compelled to post. And so I've been sharing their stories more. I've been asking them to collaborate with me to try and grow the face of She Sells brand a little bit more with the everyday woman. That's kind of like the strategy as well.
And I love that because, obviously with a growing family, you might not always be able to produce the amount of content. I know that, that's one of your company goals for the next year. And so I think the key man risk is a real thing. And I think that making that switch for you is going to kind of spread that around. I think that's a really, really good thing.
Yeah, I'm excited about what that can, and all my team feel really excited as well about, a lot of their words for the year is confidence and stop hiding behind things. And the best way to do that is to just imperfect action. Just pull up your phone, and what we're seeing working in 2026 is the authentic, the real, the raw. Like, people want to see more of that. So I said to one of my coaches today, whose word is confidence, but it's not confidence outwardly, it's more inwardly. Stop hiding behind, various bits and pieces. For instance, she keeps being like, oh, but I don't know how to use CapCut and I can't edit this and it's not polished enough. And I'm like, that's what you're hiding behind. So I was like, just pick up your phone and share anything, like literally anything. And then you'll start to pick up that momentum and it will start to feel more natural. But yeah, I'm all about just, gosh, you will catch me in every shape, size, angle.
Well, I would love to kind of hear. I know that, I feel like we've all got quite a level of confidence, but I do think, Brooke, obviously, you've got a lot of confidence. And I'd love to kind of hear, has there been something that's helped you with your confidence, like something when you were younger, or what kind of helps you with your confidence?
That's such a great question. Do you know seriously what it is? I really just think I own who I am. And I don't really care what comes out of my mouth. It's just like, that's just whatever comes to my mind ends up just coming out of my mouth. And some people are like, oh my God, I can't believe you just said that. But because I own it with such conviction, it's like people will always just accept what I say because they're like, they can't question that level of conviction. They just really can't, or that level of authenticity. Like, I will literally talk about anything and everything. There is nothing I will not talk about. And yes, that's a little bit scary at times, but I also am just so okay with it. I don't know if that answered your question, but I think that's really helped me, is just recognizing that that's just who I am. So you either like it or you don't.
I think just owning the authenticity, and it's like, well, whatever comes out, this is who I truly am. So, like me, don't like me, this is what it is. I love that. What about you, Viv? You've got like a nice, quiet confidence. I love it.
I think particularly on Look, I think I mean, your whole other old business, Katie, was about this, right? Like, essentially, I'd love to hear it from you next. But I think as far as social media, like if I just talk about in a social media sense, oh my goodness, do you know how much I hated being behind the camera or like filming stuff? It was only because of my first business partner who literally forced me to do it. Bless her. Like, same, starting a podcast, she would force me to do it every week. We did hundreds of episodes. I don't know how she managed to do that with me, but I hated it. And then it got to a stage where now it's just easy. I don't care. I'm like you, Brooke. One of my friends replied to one of the stories on Gigio the other day saying, "Nice hair, hun," because I'd just come out of the shower. It was just like, "Hag it as," when normally people say, "No, you look fine." Like, your real friends will say, like, "Bitch,
Yeah,
do your
not
hair."
good.
Like, yeah. So now I just don't care, and I really struggle to give a fuck. But it's a good place to be in. But I'm curious. And so when I hear people, and I've said it before, I think, like, I've never heard a business owner who has wanted to be like, yeah, I would love to be on social media, unless they were an influencer first and they had their business second. I'm yet to find someone who has said, yeah, yippee, put me on socials. I really want to do this content. Like, never, ever, ever, ever. But I know that you in a past life, that was just what you did. Or am I wrong?
Yeah, I
Like,
think
do you teach people to get to that point without the prior kind of base foundational,
yeah,
not
I
caring?
think that for me, confidence has really grown just from giving things a go. I think like the first time we do anything in life, it is so incredibly scary, daunting. You have those anxiety feelings. And, you do it the second time, you might get the same feelings, the third time, the fourth time. But I think just the repetition of doing the task or the action is where I've grown in confidence. And so if anyone is feeling that they are lacking in confidence in a certain area, my sort of strategy is get in there and do it. Yes, it's going to feel uncomfortable. Yes, it's going to be hard, but do it anyway. And then do it again and do it again and do it again. And eventually, you will just be so confident in that role or whatever it is that you're not feeling confident in. So for me, it's just taking action anyway, trying to put a smile on the face, even though you're probably stirring up inside. Keep repeating it. And eventually you will gain the confidence because it's just that repetition for me that kind of builds confidence.
There's definitely a misconception that confidence is the prerequisite. It's like you need to have confidence before you act, but it's actually the byproduct. It's literally something that comes after. Like, when I first started showing up on social media, I was the opposite of confident. I just was so nervous. I was anxious. I would do the video literally 50 times. Like, my camera roll was just me repeating the same thing over and over and over again. So I guess that's what separates successful people from unsuccessful peoples. We're so much more willing to take action, imperfect action, just knowing that the confidence is going to come as a byproduct of us actually doing the damn thing. And this is something I say to my girls all the time because they get caught up in the minutiae, in the nuances, right? We're in the midst of an objection class and they're like, yeah, Brooke, like, that just feels a bit icky to me. And I'm like, okay, right. Well, you know what? Why don't you just say the damn thing in the first place? Because you're not doing that part. So before we worry about whether it sounds icky, just do it. Like, do the thing first, and then we can work on them showing the nuances. But it's getting them to just take action before the confidence is there, And the best way to do that is to pick up the rock, move it across. Pick up the rock, move it across. Do it again and again and again and again. So
And
unsexy, but it's
confidence will
yeah.
come, but it's not gonna be there straight away. I can almost guarantee that. So you just have to put a smile on your face and do it anyway, and know that eventually you will get confidence.
The best bit of advice that I was given when I was doing network marketing, and I don't lie, I hate this saying, but it's just so true when you actually think about it, is they were like, you know what, you're going to feel like the biggest fraud in the beginning. So they're like, just fake it till you make it. And I know that's such a cliche saying. And I actually owe a lot to that saying as to where I am today, because it is, you are faking it essentially. Like, I was faking the confidence and conviction that I had when I was first showing up on social media until you're not faking it anymore. And that's just who you are. It's no different from being like, I want $1 million. It's like, well, okay, in order for you to act and think and move like a $1 million woman, you actually need to fake it. You need to pretend you are that person, because that's what's going to then open like you up to receiving the $1 million. So I love the essence and the core of that fake it till you make it.
If anyone wants to dive deeper into that topic, you've just set a little light bulb off in my brain of the book that's currently on my bedside table, which I couldn't remember the title of, but I've just Googled it. And it's called The Winning Mindset by David Neathy. And it actually speaks to a lot of these topics. And it's a very simple book, very easy. If you're interested in learning more about, especially what you were saying, Brooke, like it's almost like an act as if, or decide, the place where you already are, highly recommend.
Amazing. Well, I think we wrap it up there. We've had some really amazing conversation and topics today. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week.
Bye.